If you could, with one wish, have somebody that you've always loved love you back and have the perfect relationship potentially with them, will you now wish that? In a lot of ways, this can backfire in the most unfathomable ways. But does that make you the villain, not knowing the consequences, or is it just ignorance? This is what we're going to discuss here. We're going to discuss who is the true villain in Obsession. Despite having a simple, straightforward story, the answer isn't as obvious as you would think. Some might argue Bear is the only true villain here because of his actions. And don't get me wrong, Bear does show his true colors as the movie went on, and his selfish decisions really make you dislike him by the end. But this is what I love about this movie. It's not as easy as it seems. There are a lot of moving parts here, and it's definitely a domino effect. One thing leads to another, and to really go into details, please know this video will contain major spoilers. If you have not seen Obsession, if you have been living under a rock, then go watch Obsession with your friends, see each other's reactions, and come back to fully discuss. I'm interested to know your perspective on this. Who do you think the villain here is? Let me know in the comments below and provide your reasoning. Let's see if our minds align by the end. To fully understand why I have my mind set on a particular villain, let's go over the main pinpoints which lead Bear to making his wish. Obsession starts with Bear practicing how to express his strong feelings for Nikki, his childhood friend who he is basically obsessed with. His friend Ian, who's meant to be there for support, practically tells Bear all that he said was too much and too corny for Nikki. Yet, the girl Bear poured his heart out to as practice clearly liked what Bear said. And this is the first sign that you are misleading someone that you're supposed to be helping out. Ian tells Bear to wait, and not to tell Nikki how much Bear loves her and how much she means to him. Ian even goes as far as telling Bear to call Nikki something she hates, Freaky Nikki, practically sabotaging Bear's chance with Nikki. Ian then tells Bear all he has is time. Of course, we know down the line Ian was having his fun with Nikki on the side, despite knowing how Bear feels for her. A true friend would never do that to you. A true friend would tell you the truth. Yes, there would be anger and pain, but if only Ian told Bear what was really happening, then maybe, just maybe, Bear would have loosened up and got over his obsession with Nikki. In the following scene, we see Bear's cat, dead on the floor with foam on its mouth. This quick change in mood really was to showcase how Bear really is. In a previous scene when Bear was practicing his feelings, the room was bright. But in this scene, Bear was in the dark, covered by the shadows of the abyss. To top things off, we get a clear image of who Bear really is. He's a strange, awkward guy who clearly has no sympathy. I say this because Bear just casually puts his cat's corpse in a trash bag. I have two beautiful cats, Loki and Ash, and if this happened to one of them, you bet I would lose my mind and not simply put them in a trash bag. I would dig a hole in my backyard and bury them. Don't ever trust anyone who does not show any sympathy for the dead pet. Bear does show some human remorse as we see him on his bed crying over his cat's death, but as soon as Nikki calls, it all goes away. Nikki wants Bear to join a night out with her, Sarah, and Ian, but at first Bear is hesitant because of his loss, but Nikki drops a bomb. She has put in her 2 weeks notice at her job where they both work together. She's leaving because she wants to be a writer and do something she loves. It's clear this bums out Bear. This immediately convinces Bear to join them, and this is what triggers something in his mind. Bear now believes this is the perfect time to let Nikki know exactly how he feels. Bear stops at this crystal shop to buy Nikki a gift. At first, Bear thinks of a necklace, but doubts his decisions and ends up buying a One Wish Willow, which seems to be a novelty gift. This One Wish Willow allows you to make one wish. It seems he thinks Nikki might find this cute or adorable. Maybe she might wish to become a good writer, or wish to do something that she loves in life. As Bear is about to buy the gift, the store employee says it's a popular item, and some people go back and complain it does not work. Bear asks why people complain, because it does not work, or because it does work but it messes up their lives completely. The employee then responds with, or they die, or they wish they were dead, in a laughing manner. This is foreshadowing how a wish can be broken. Bear still buys the gift and is now at the bar for trivia night with his friends. Bear is hinting at Ian that right now is the time to fully express how Bear feels for Nikki, and Ian is trying to convince him not to, But shockingly, Bear takes matters into his own hands and finds an opportunity to actually speak up. So he joins Nikki as she goes to buy drinks. This is the moment where they are finally alone, away from Sarah and Ian. Bear tries to express his thoughts but keeps on getting interrupted, at first by the bartender, then by Ian, and then by Sarah. After his failed attempts, Ian and Nikki walk away and Bear finally talks to a friend about his cat's loss. Sarah immediately comforts him, but I have a feeling Bear wishes it was Nikki hugging him instead of Sarah. As they are about to leave the bar, Nikki says that she would rather go home and Bear offers to take her. Ian says, "Take your girl home," and Nikki responds with, "Ew, don't say that," and Bear looks awkward after this. Ian is the worst wingman ever up to this point, and sadly, this is how everything truly begins. I'll go into more details in a bit. Bear is now officially alone with Nikki, heading to her place. On the way there, Nikki asks Bear how he feels about Sarah, and Bear says that he sees Sarah as a friend. Nikki then says she does not make it obvious whenever she likes someone. That person will never know, and looks at Bear. This is something I believe signifies that maybe Nikki is trying to hint how she does have feelings for Bear. They finally arrive at Nikki's place. Bear decides not to give the gift to Nikki and gets more awkward. He starts to pull up a wall and not share his feelings. As Nikki walks away, he calls her freaking Nikki, and this bothers Nikki, of course. She then goes back to the car and asks, "Do you like me? Because if you do, this is the right time to tell me." Bear, being the coward that he is, doubles down behind his wall and says he does not like her at all and sees her as a good friend. And this is when he really loses his shot. This quick moment made it clear to me that if Bear would have spoken up and actually expressed his feelings, then maybe, just maybe, he would have gotten a chance to date Nikki. I also believe this because it's clear how Nikki also likes Bear, or maybe she thinks that she does. Yeah, dating each other maybe would not have worked out, but at least they both would know that they tried and it did not work. After losing his shot, Bear finally opens the One Wish Willow and says, "I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the world." The rest of the movie completely goes off the rails from this point. Now that we've covered what led Bear to making this wish, I can now go over who I think the true villain here is. As mentioned earlier, I see this all as a domino effect. Let me first get this out of the way. To anyone that thinks Nikki is a villain here, or if she was a problem, then you seriously need to get yourself checked. Nikki here is a victim of it all. Every scene prior to freaking Nikki taking over, we see Nikki being nothing but kind, funny, and a joyful person. She makes Bear laugh with funny faces. She does not let Bear pay for the tab, and she even asked to borrow $20 to give it to a homeless. Nikki was portrayed as a good, caring individual. Thing is, Ian saw an opportunity and took it. Nikki is allowed to have her fun, and her fun on the side with Ian is perfectly fine. Everyone is allowed to have intercourse with someone if it's consensual. Ian had the balls to be intimate with her and to take the first steps. She clearly gave Bear a chance to speak up, and he decided not to. Ian is seriously a piece of shit for doing that behind Bear's back, but from Nikki's side, it's fine. This leads me directly to who I think the main villain here truly is. The person that really began it all is Ian. Ian is a push to all the chaos. As the Joker would say, you see, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push. Ian pushed Bear not to tell Nikki how Bear feels, not to express all his bottled emotions to her, to basically take all the time in the world. Ian clearly knew how much Nikki meant to Bear. Ian manipulated the outcome. Also, Ian can keep on having his fun with Nikki on the side. The entire outcome would have been resolved if Ian was a good friend and actually supported Bear and helped him open up to Nikki. I have a feeling Nikki would have dated Bear. Maybe they wouldn't have lasted, but at least no one would have died. Ian planted the seed from the very start of the movie, and even near the end, as Bear goes to him covered in blood, Ian wishes for $1 billion despite seeing how devastated Bear is. At this point, Ian was jealous of how much time Nikki and Bear were spending together. Ian is mad to see how long Nikki and Bear have actually been together now at this point. Ian was never a true friend of Bear. True friends will never treat each other this way. Now, Before anyone gets mad, yes, Bear is also the villain here. His actions throughout the movie makes it clear how he is a selfish a-hole. He had a gut feeling and knew the One Wish Willow actually worked. He knew something was completely off. From the random crazy moments where the real Nikki would break free, to the moment where she hurt herself. Bear would turn the other way and ignore it all, only to push forward with his fake love. This is what truly makes Obsession extremely disturbing. We all know her love for him is not real. We see Bear having intercourse with her after an awkward dinner when Ian dropped the news that Nikki's father is now sick. Nikki is completely soulless and Bear is taking full advantage of this all, only to fulfill his needs and neglect the needs of Nikki. What really hit on the nail was seeing how Bear called the number in the back of the One Wish Willow to alter his wish, not to cancel it. He is so stuck with having Nikki love him than actually fix the wish. Then we hear the operator ask if Bear would like to speak with the real Nikki, and we hear her scream in the back and Bear just hangs up. This coward would rather shut off the real Nikki than talk to her and fix this. Then the scene that really made me hate Bear was when Nikki tells Bear to kill her, to end this before the other Nikki wakes up and takes control again. Bear then says, "What's so bad about being with me?" And then the real Nikki says, "I've never been with you," and he just walks away. I felt no pity for Bear after this. I began thinking Bear is really a coward to speak up ever since the bar scene, and Bear allowing all of this to continue instead of doing the right thing truly tells you Bear is not a cuddly, warm, or huggable person. He is just a selfish individual that only cares to satisfy his own needs. Isn't it funny how someone nicknamed Bear ended up being a total opposite of a teddy bear-like person? I do need to point out, he at least tried to undo his wish by going back to the store and buying more One Wish Willows, but at this point, it was too late. Thanks to him, Sarah was already dead. This leads me to Sarah. Out of everyone in the group, I feel Sarah was the only chill person. She clearly had a thing for Bear, and this made her also selfish. Will you allow yourself to be in a spot where you must kiss the partner of your friend over a silly game? I really liked Sarah's character, but I need to point out how she was in the wrong for not moving away when Bear picked up the brick that said, "Kiss the person on the left." Sarah could have easily asked to switch with Nikki, but Sarah did not and just stood there waiting for that kiss. Sarah did also text Bear between 2 or 3 a.m. asking to meet up because they wanted to talk or she needed to talk with him. As they talk, Sarah tells Bear he could have been with someone more chill because after all, she was to his left. Trust me, I hate what happened to Sarah, but she also was selfish at times. This does not make her a villain though. How devastated were you after that horrendous Sarah scene? I was upset, shocked, and heartbroken. She did not deserve any of that. Screw Bear for just sitting there and watching everything unfold, and for sticking around with Nikki afterwards. Everyone in this friend group was selfish though. Did you realize how Sarah nor Ian really ever reached out to Nikki to check on her? We did not see that in the movie. Sarah and Ian knew something was off. Yes, Ian had to talk with Bear saying how people think that Bear is taking advantage of Nikki, which he is. But aside from that, we don't really see Sarah nor Ian confront Nikki about anything. Will you speak with your close friend if you see something is off? I believe a good friend will reach out and at least have a conversation about this. Obsession is a true phenomenon. It leaves people shattered in pieces by the time the credits roll. The last time we had such an impactful movie in theater would probably be The Exorcist back in 1973. Obsession leaves us feeling as if we need therapy after we get back home. This is what I love about this entire experience. There is so much to talk about, from the reaction in the theater, to how you felt throughout, and to how you are left by the end of it all. This simple movie has a lot of moving parts. Ian is a true villain of the story. He pushed Bear to hold back, instead of allowing Bear to flourish and possibly move on from his obsession with Nikki. The push from Ian allowed Bear to flourish, but not in the intended way. Bear is also the villain. His true colors ended up showing and poor Nikki ended up paying the price. After this all, she will need to face the consequences for all that she's done. She killed Sarah, she killed Ian, and she is in a home surrounded by dead bodies of friends. Can you imagine being trapped in your own body, and when you finally have control, you are surrounded by such a disaster? I am curious to know your thoughts on this take. of who the villain is in Obsession. Is it Bear, Sarah, Ian? Don't tell me you think it's Nikki. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Obsession deals with heartbreaking moments we all, as humans, go through. We've dealt with loving someone and being afraid that they don't love you back. Love is tricky, and in this case, love caused a shy, timid person to lose themselves after getting the love that they wanted, despite the love being fake. Thank you for your time today, my cinematic family, and for sticking until the end. If you are a true cinephile, please hit the subscribe button. You can check out my honest review for Obsession if you wish to know what rating I gave it. Remember, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. I am Chewy, and this is Chewy Cinematic Talk. Take care, and I'll see you next time.